So imagine it something like you are speaking your message, you are on stage, or you are leading that team, or you are in healthcare and you're with a patient, and you're saying all these wonderful things, but internally you're going, oh, I sound terrible. Oh, I hate the way I sound. What's going on? Mm-mm. I don't care how well you're saying those words, the physical sound that you're emanating is connected to that inner belief and that critical state of being. So until that starts to shift and you shift the beliefs and how you're listening to intuition, not the chatter, I think that literally carries on the sound that you make.
Oh my goodness. And when I'm thinking, there's so many things I'm thinking about when you say that, because, conversations, if you're not confident or if you're trying to pitch your services, but you don't even believe in it yourself.
Yes. Exactly. I just got chills. Like this, for those of you listening, I mean, Layna and I, when we first chatted, we were like, so you'll find that's like, we were jiving right away. Yes. So that's the thing too. When it comes to confidence, I am not one who's like, do your power pose in the mirror and then you'll feel confident because you've said this affirmation 5 times a day. That's just not me. That's
Welcome back to Speakers and Stages. Really happy that you're here, because today's guest is someone who helps leaders protect their most powerful asset, their voice. She's a vocal empowerment guide, a former speech pathologist, and the founder of Your Vocal Vitality. She's coached executives, entrepreneurs, speakers, and to speak with strength, clarity, and sustainability on stage and off stage, everyday leaders. So please give me a hand clap at home as you're watching. Welcome, Brienne Hennessy, to Speakers and Stages. Welcome.
Thank you, Layna. It is so fun to be here. Yay. Hi, everyone.
Brienne, thank you so much for joining us today. I love your work because it's definitely different when you think about like professional speakers and people that are doing their thing. And so really just want to tell the audience like a little bit more about what you do and why it's so super important.
Yeah, absolutely. When you wake up in the morning, you assume your voice will be there. What happens when it's not? What happens when you've had those times where that little scratch in the throat turns into full-blown voice loss? What happens when you're about to walk on stage and you're like, I feel so nervous. I think my voice is cracking and weak. And what am I going to do? Those are the moments where people actually feel the most alone, as in saying, I don't know how to take care of this. And I am the person saying there is a preventative, proactive path you can take to protect, as you rightly described, this precious asset in your neck. So to me, my work really evolved from rehabilitating injured voices in voice clinics around the country to shifting into that preventative model, which, let's be honest, I think our healthcare system could always use improvement on. And that comes down to those who use your voice to do your job. You are vocal athletes. And so, like any athlete, I am here as the trainer in the wings to help you get to where you want to be and have a peak performance, not just in your message and being on stage or leading your team, but literally in how your voice sounds and resonates.
It reminds me of like when you would hear about like Mariah Carey, like she would have to make sure that before going on and going out there on the stage that she would have to prepare, and certain aromas in the room, and like the environment was really helpful.
Yes.
Is that something that is also important? Environment and the air?
Yes, because I don't believe that you can just prepare your presentation, your talk, your speaking day by just repeating the same things and rehearsing in the same ways as you've always rehearsed. You have to be able to look at the external, what's going on, as well as, most importantly, the internal, and making sure that you are aligned with what does bring you some calm, some stress relief, what does get you centered and grounded. And I actually believe that voice not only reflects when that has or hasn't happened, perhaps, but at the same time can be the exercises that I use can be ways to ground and to feel into that preparedness in ways that most people actually honestly say the most often to me, Layna. They'll go like, well, I'm not a singer. Don't care. That's okay. You sing for the joy of it. That is awesome. This is about us using our speaking voice. And so, yes, some of the things I use are very similar crossover from maybe what people would think of as singing preparation. but it goes so much deeper than that because, like you said, there has to be more than just a singular aspect of how we're preparing in showing up.
Now, when did you realize that there was a deeper, more intuitive side
Mm.
of how we use our voices?
Mhm. I was in voice clinics for about 14 years of my healthcare career, and I graduated school in 2007. And then, really, by about 20, had multiple patients come in and at the end of a session or an assessment say, "Are you sure you're a clinician? Like, are you sure you're a healthcare provider?" And at the time, I thought, "Oh, well, that's nice. Like, we connect, and clearly I'm like hearing you, and this is great." But really, that dovetailing with some dark night of the soul, personal hills that I had to climb, including going through divorce and depression and anxiety, I could see where this overlap of how important it is for our ability to be heard, our ability to hear our own self, and what that does for our worthiness showed up for both me and the patients I served. So while there are voice disorders that are stress induced, that are psychosomatic, that are something that can happen from events in your life, I also believe that as I developed my own internal guidance system, my intuition, that really started to show up in how I guess, from their feedback, was naturally engaging with them. And so, as I was putting two and two together, I really see voice as two sides of this coin, the physical component, as well as the intuitive inner voice component. And when you align those two, Layna, those are those moments that you feel it, you're in the zone, you feel this flow through this vessel. Other people sense it, feel it. It's like this palpable resonance. And if it's not, then to me, that's also a sign that maybe that's not your person. And that's okay too, right? Because then we know who's for us and who's not for us.
And because you're saying two things that I'm like, oh, we have to dig deeper.
Mhm.
When you say when we hear our own
Mhm.
voices, what does that mean? Like,
Yeah, good question. I imagine many of you have some version of what I like to call self-critical mind chatter. It's that usually derogatory, usually very critical, harsh voice. I believe it's more in the head, in the mind. Now, you will see people call it that critical inner voice. I will define it how I define it. I believe inner voice in the terms of intuition versus the critical, ego based, destructive mind chatter. So, when we look at which one are you listening to, for years, all I could hear was the critical mind chatter. It was really loud. And there may be some of you listening right now where you're like, that's the stream. That's what I get. Nothing but criticism, nothing but fear and doubt and worry. And from that, as I sifted through my own work and could see in the people I was guiding that start to shift as well, when we tap into our intuition, which we all possess, sometimes it's very, very quiet, but it's there. I believe when we speak from that place versus the critical place, that is a totally different frequency, vibration, energy, resonance. So imagine it something like you are speaking your message, you are on stage, or you are leading that team, or you are in healthcare and you're with a patient and you're saying all these wonderful things, but internally you're going, oh, I sound terrible. Oh, I hate the way I sound. What's going on? Mm-mm. I don't care how well you're saying those words, the physical sound that you're emanating is connected to that inner belief and that critical state of being. So until that starts to shift and you shift the beliefs and how you're listening to intuition, not the chatter,
yeah.
I think that literally carries on the sound that you make.
Oh my goodness. And when I'm thinking, there's so many things I'm thinking about when you say that because, conversations, if you're not confident or if you're trying to pitch your services, but you don't even believe in it yourself.
Yes.
Oh,
Exactly. I just got chills. Like this, for those of you listening, I mean, Layna and I, when we first chatted, we were like, "Du-du-du-du-du." So you'll find that's like we were jiving right away. Yes. So that's the thing too. When it comes to confidence, I am not one who's like, do your power pose in the mirror and then you'll feel confident because you've said this affirmation 5 times a day. That's just not me. That's not how I work. There are ways that I think we can utilize different new phrases, but what's below that? The belief. And if we don't change that belief, no matter how many times you say it, no matter how well you can try to really put it on and put your voice in a different space, it's going to be off. And we've all been there. Like whether you're hearing someone on a podcast or on stage and you're like, I mean, I'm picking up what they're putting down, but something doesn't feel quite right. You
Right.
can't always describe it, but you know it's there. And so we have to look at, is it because you effectively don't believe in what they're saying? Maybe. But we have to look at the speaker too. Is that the speaker is not confident, and that is showcased through the voice. Some speakers will feel it in that sense of nervousness. Some voices will crack. Sometimes it'll be that sense of like, it's getting stuck in my throat. I can't project, they'll call it. And I think that is the deeper work that we can do well before a day or two, before any event, any stage, any hard conversation. Let's be honest.
Is that,
Like,
but
yeah.
is that the preventative part that you work on?
Correct. So the preventative part is the focus of my mission. Although I will say I get a fair share of speakers and coaches and consultants in my DM saying, I have to be on stage in 2 days and my voice is going scratchy and I'm losing it. And okay, then we can triage. And so I have a triage protocol that they can be led through, either self-led, and it's emergency kit, or they can have my support with it. But that's the Band-Aid, right? We don't want to live just for the Band-Aid. So yes, it has to be, what are the steps you can take 2, 3, 6 months in advance to help realign an instrument that is meant to sound vibrant and natural to you and not like anybody else.
Oh my goodness. One of a kind.
Yes, absolutely.
So when a speaker, when should they reach out? I have a major event coming up in July. And is this the good time to kind of reach out now to be able to utilize the services that you have?
Yes, I say anytime is a good time, particularly for professionals who don't really have an off season with your voice. You may have a more intense season. But outside of, say, educators who, let's be honest, they still have a talk to talk over the summer, whether they're doing extra, activities or family life. Outside of those kind of traditional work settings, yes, if there is something coming up even within the next couple months, that gives us that initial runway to get you familiar in a new way with your voice, what it's capable of. And especially if you're already coming with concerns like, I just want to sound engaging. I don't want to sound dull. Why do people not hear me when I say something? Why does my voice hurt after a long period of talking or feel tired? If those signs are speaking to you already, absolutely, this is the time. For those who typically find that they do well and then have kind of started to see the down the road, like, in 6 months, I'm going to really start scaling. I had a client, Eleanor Beaton. She is an amazing women's business coach and strategist. She saw herself already needing more visibility. You have to talk for more visibility, needing to get on more stages anyway, but in scaling her business, adding to the number of conversion events that she was doing. So she and I started working together about 9 months before she had already laid out the path of their other typical scaling efforts. Why? Because she noticed, yes, I want to be in peak performance in all of these areas in my business. And by doing so, she was able to get on her lives more. She loves doing her like Instagram shorts and things of that nature. And at the same time, be confident and really more comfortable with herself saying yes to speaking engagements. So it really depends on the person. That's where when I talk to you, I love hearing what your timeline is, because I don't want it to be pressurized. Do you feel like, Layna, everybody wants like a quick fix? Everybody wants like it to happen yesterday. So why would we do that to ourselves when we're learning a new skill and learning how to deepen and embody something? You can't rush embodiment.
No. But is there a way to like do a self-check to know, is this a good time? I know you mentioned the symptoms, but I didn't know if there's anything else that they could do just to test to make sure.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say two things. One is, and it is a kind of joint co-creative self-check. I do voice health screenings. So if ever and we'll talk about that later, that is something that complimentary. If you're ever just wondering, what does my voice sound like? What is it doing? That is something that I feel really strongly about, because again, I saw so many people come in after they had had chronic issues, after they had pushed too long, not knowing what to do. And here they were needing like medical treatment for it. The second thing is, there's a woman who's considering working together and starting her voice journey. And she first reached out to me last July. And at that time, she had already noticed it was impacting her business. She is a physician. She is wanting to not only grow in her visibility, but the specialty that she's in is typically more male dominated. And she was feeling like she wasn't heard. Her voice was becoming a little bit weaker. She didn't think she had a good sounding voice, whatever that means to each individual person. So, point is, after we had talked, she's like, yes, I know this is what I need. And then I didn't hear from her for 6 months. And we connected again the other day after she had said, I just was on this podcast. I listened back to it and I don't like it at all. Her business hasn't grown in the way she wanted. And so that could be your own self-check. What are your goals if you're a business owner? What are your goals for how much you want to show up and speak, whether it's, making video content or speaking on stages or being at networking events or putting yourself out there more? And more importantly, when you think to yourself, do I like the sound that I'm hearing that's coming out of my mouth? And if the answer is no, or even ew, we got to talk.
And I'm hoping that the ew is not their regular everyday voice. It's like you can't get rid of it. unless there is a way that you can alter it. I don't know if
You can create what I call choices with your voice. So remember, what do we, have underlying all this is our beliefs. If we say ooh to anything about us, and I know people are all different levels and journeys with self-acceptance and self-love. And I think voice is a conduit to that well-being, to love yourself and love your voice in a way that is meant to be showcased. But if there are people saying, ew, I cannot listen, I will not. I know podcast hosts who will not listen to the playbacks. They don't like doing that part of the editing. And so we have to look at what is it underlying that is keeping that belief so strong for you? And how can you hate the very thing that you're sharing your message to the world with?
Yeah.
So yes, there are choices that people can make. We play with different types of exercises, all the way to those beliefs, all the way to looking at how we just naturally code switch in a day. We code switch. I'm a mom, for example. I code switch from my mom voice to my business owner voice, to my presentation voice, to my morning voice. Let's be honest, I got morning voice. That is normal. Okay. So we want to be able to make sure that you know these types of voices and engage with them, not avoid them. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Especially about the code switching, because I think sometimes, I'm thinking about me personally when talking to my husband, and he's the, lawyer. And so coming to him and you can't have the mommy voice on. He's just like, oh goodness. But it's good to hear you say these things, because I'm guessing or assuming people may be damaging their voices and not even know it.
Absolutely. There can be risk factors that put people more into that trajectory of something going awry. Now, voice science has come a long way. While we can't fully 100% predict, it's much closer to understanding, well, if you do this much talking, or you're, a loud talker in this scenario and your voice is getting tired, we can add those up. But there are things, like I said, back to stress and belief systems that can deteriorate internal health. And so if we are constantly believing that we're not worthy to be heard, and we're repressing that and pushing that in, that can create pressure here. And a lot of folks who talk about their voice getting worse when they are stressed or nervous talk about pressure in the throat. And so, yes, I focus on it from a physical aspect, from an energetic aspect, and from looking at, okay, what can we do to start to steer the ship, recalibrate, so you aren't on this train of, well, it's more fatigued, but I have all these things to do and I'm going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and then my voice is not good.
Yeah.
So yes, while in extreme cases damage can happen, that's the beautiful thing about this work. There are so many signals that can right the ship before that even happens. Yeah.
And I just wonder, is there a way, like if you're going through something and, life's, and, if you have a speaking engagement, and I'm just thinking of, for me personally, being able to, I guess it's the code switching.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do I turn off the feeling and the frustration or the hurt that I'm experiencing, differently?
Good question. I would say no. So I believe voice is, and the exercises and the way we channel it through the sound can alchemize those feelings and emotions so that you feel into your truest self, your power, not out of dismissal or gaslighting yourself into what you cannot feel, but to embrace it and truly feel it come flowing through. So, yes, sometimes there is a, oh, this stressful thing just happened and we just now had to push record and like, what am I going to do? But the cool thing, Layna, like it's so fascinating to me when I can be with a client and even my own like everyday practice, I'm aware of what's happening internally. And when you're listening to those body signals, you can adjust accordingly. That takes a lot of practice. That also means that sometimes it's not going to go the way you want it. That's okay. Yeah, I can feel my yes, meaning I can tell in my body my yes and my no. That's my intuition with it. And also that it's a challenge to put into words, because the way I guide my clients for their intuition means that we don't dismiss the feelings, we alchemize it with the sound. And that also means that the sounds that you make sometimes will seem ugly to others. But the beautiful thing is you're doing the sound in your own personal practice to release through the voice so that when you do have to show up and all these other things in life are lifing, it is still 100% aligned and authentically you. There's no
Oh, that's so
masks. There's
good.
no masks.
Oh,
We're not here for the masks.
but I like that you can
Yes.
feel through it and
Yeah.
still be authentic and
Yeah.
still connect. It's just maybe, it's a different connection if you weren't going through
Yeah,
something
exactly.
or
Exactly.
still
And
able
we
to
can't
connect.
honestly try to box ourselves in to know how we want that to feel, because it will be feeling in the moment, be present in the moment. Presence is so powerful for how we show up. So if we are trying to force it or control it, I think that also puts us back into that more pressurized system that can lead to, people talk to me about a lot about, I felt short of breath, like I couldn't catch my breath as I'm talking. Because you're literally shutting down and restricting all that life force and that energy that's just trying to move through so you can connect in the way you were meant to in that moment. So that's how I try to approach
Yeah.
it.
Oh, that now you had mentioned something about like the vocal
Yes.
athlete
Yes.
voice. What
Yes.
what does that mean
Totally. So this
exactly?
comes from some speech pathology colleagues who really looked at, as we look at the science of voice and the physical load that our precious vocal folds. So your vocal folds sit right behind your Adam's apple. When you swallow, you'll feel it bob up and down. Okay. And even if you right now, Layna, even if you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you have your hand here, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
And you can probably
1,
feel the
2, 3, 4,
buzziness
5.
underneath your fingertips. So your vocal folds are vibrating. And the vibrations that happen in this system are incredible. They vibrate hundreds of thousands of times a day. So think of that like hundreds of thousands of collisions. If I was to clap my hands that many times a day, and they're in this vibrating system, air support, muscular coordination, resonance, and how it's coming through our speech. When we look at a typical professional voice user, someone who uses their voice to do their job, let's say on the order of talking, let's go conservative, 7-8 hours a day, that is like running a marathon. Okay, the equivalent of running a marathon every day. So when we look at, oh, what do marathoners do? Do they just sit on the couch and then jump up and go run a marathon? I don't think so. Pretty sure they have some
Yes.
conditioning and training in the picture. But what's interesting is we just, again, take this for granted and say, well, I've been talking all my life. Like, why would I start anything now? But then you add on the background noise, the extra engagements, the reading to the kids at night, the happy hours, all of this extra. And everybody's going to have a threshold. No system is invincible. Our voices are resilient, but if you know what to look for and if you've been paving that preventative pathway. So that's what I mean by athlete. I consider it similar. It makes me think of, and kind of related to this idea of, this is why I'm so happy you were open to bringing this conversation, because people still think of voice as somewhat taboo. And what I mean by that is, especially in the professional singing world, depending on your genre, you don't tell anybody you had a voice, just, you went to a voice clinic? Like, you don't talk about it. Because for a long time, what would that lead to? loss of income. And so when we look at that in a
Mm,
similar vein, we need to talk about these things so people know what to look out for, but also not make it this scary taboo thing and shame or judge
mhm.
people that they're going to lose their income. Oh, wait, let's look at professional basketball. That basketballer sprains their ankle in the NBA, and we got the PT running, we got everybody on board, getting them back into the game. Nobody's worried about his paycheck at that point. So exactly.
No.
So why is it so different for those two sides of it? And that's why I think looking at this as this instrument that it is, this athletic endeavor it does every day, it is a barometer. You can listen to it. It is an asset. It will earn you money, and it is also something that you can take care of and love deeply.
Oh, this is great. When I think about athletes and I think about someone that has a lot of confidence and just out there in their voice, I can only imagine behind the scenes is Coach Prime. I just think about him. You know?
Yes.
I'm just, and I can tell that there's times where it's
Coaches
raspy and he's
struggle
been talking for
so much. Yes, I that is a great specific example relative to, yes, the athletic world. Coaches all the way down to my daughter's like gym teacher. Like coaches, like they struggle so much because there is a lot of pressure they put on their sound, but most are relying just on projection to be heard, just on more, more, more. And again, this instrument only has so much it can take, so many collisions a day before it starts getting swollen, before lumps and bumps and issues start arising that can lead to surgery down the road. So we want to avoid that. Yeah.
Oh my, oh
Yeah.
my goodness. And there's I think about someone else. He's a rapper and it's Little John and he's like, yeah, he would be
Yes.
screaming. But if you ever heard him
Yeah.
just talk like this, he's very
Yes.
calm and very, and he came out with a
Yes,
meditation
that's right. I
album.
did hear about this. So cool. And that I think goes to show that choices with your voice and when it's done healthily. I will not say to someone never yell. Yell, I mean, we have these huge, beautiful extremes we can do with this instrument. And yet, can you do it safely and effectively and not overdose yourself? So there are ways to scream
Yeah.
safely. There are ways to, in heavy metal, growl safely. There are ways to, go hours and hours and build up that stamina, but you have to be smart and strategic first and not say, I'll just push through one more time. Because you know what happens when they push through one more time instead of prioritizing it? They are either up in my DMs or they are frantically figuring out how to rebook those sales calls, rebook that gig if they're even allowed to, and stressing about what am I going to do if I don't have my voice back by 7 days. I need it back in 7 days. Okay. Yeah.
Oh my
Stressful. Nobody needs that extra
goodness.
stress. We got enough going on.
Yeah. So my other question is, what does the ideal event or host do to make sure that they feel prepared
Mm.
and protected? And if you could share an example, but I work with these people all the time, and I'm just like, if they were prepared to be protected, I just wonder, is there a way that they could make a simple
Mm.
shift before giving you a call? Because they're going to have to connect with you.
Yeah.
I just think that is so necessary.
And you're speaking
Yeah.
specifically to, yes, the event planners, but also those that they're supporting on stage. Yes.
So really, the event
Mm.
host. So that's the person that's
Oh, yes.
hosting the
Okay.
event,
Thank you. Great.
or
Yep.
MC, or the
Perfect.
MCs. I think
Now
that
it
is
yes, thank you for
definitely,
that
yeah.
clarification. Okay, so two examples of that. One, I went to one of my favorite business conferences in the fall is the Small Business Owners Community, and he knows I talk about him like this. So the founder of that wonderful community is Pat Miller, and I can't tell you every time, Layna, I get there and Pat will go, okay, Brienne, I meant to do my extras. I meant to, but I was so busy with all of these other things. Okay, cool. So Pat is, yes, the host and the occasional MC. We also have the amazing Precious Williams as the MC. And in that, it is this a willingness to delegate. Okay, yes, you are the host. Yes, you
Mhm.
are, doing all the logistics and making sure, but do you have a way to delegate? Whether that's I am going to set internal boundaries on myself for how much I'm going to talk during a given amount of time. I'm going to minimize my presence at the happy hour or the large background noise in the room and how much I'm trying to project my voice and push, and also let letting others know. It's okay to go, you know what? My voice is already feeling a bit tired. We are on day 1. So what ended up happening is by
Yeah.
day 3, Pat's voice was starting to fade and he knew it. And he jokes with me all the time about this, jokes slash, knows he has to do something about it. And I just hold space for him because I know that not everybody's ready when you think they're ready, right? And at the same time, in your preparation, so it can be looking at the whole series of events and where you are going to have to talk, making sure you're adjusting and delegating, making sure you're getting your rest. I mean, I know that sounds obvious, but that can really make a huge difference. If your whole body's fatigued, your voice will show that. You'll push more, your breath will be more shallow. And then also making sure not waiting to hydrate. So many people in the stress of coming up to events think that they are checking all the boxes except their own well-being. And hydration, what we know is that water takes 24 to 48 hours to get through your system. So don't be guzzling those water bottles the day of the event thinking like, I'm going to feel great. Yes, girl, that's what we're going to normalize drinking.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Drinking water on podcast is now normalized. Thank you. And hosts and speakers will go hours. I'll watch them go hours without sipping anything. But the hydration piece needs to be that runway. So a few days, a few weeks. If you're flying to your event, airplanes are so drying on the airways. So making sure you're staying hydrated. So those are some of the kind of key logistical things to consider, because it really needs to be just as much focus as you're putting on crafting a beautiful event and a successful event. You need to be taking care of your well-being. And as the host, you're likely going to be talking quite a lot.
Oh my goodness. And so as I'm thinking about this, because you mentioned just about the hydration piece and looking at people on stages and they're not drinking, you must attend events and look at like what's happening and thinking about so much at the same. It's like going to the dentist or no, just you're meeting a dentist.
Yeah, they're
and
just seeing the
your
teeth. People ask me this a lot. They'll stop mid-sentence and they'll be like, "Oh, are you listening to me right now? Like, are you judging my voice?" No, zero judgment space. I can turn it off.
Yeah.
And yes, when I do listen to speakers, there was actually just an event I went to the other night for the National Speakers Association. And one of the women who had heard speak about a year and a half ago, I could immediately tell her voice was different. She was struggling with dry mouth. You could tell. Yes, she had her water on stage, but like we talked about, that's just kind of a Band-Aid once you're already in the moment. Her voice was a little more restricted and dampened. And then come to find out from a colleague, I found out the next day that speaker had lost her voice the next morning. And so she clearly had some symptoms that were coming along and showcasing that something was awry. But yes, I do listen. And at times it's more just for my own awareness and observance. And other times it really is one of those, like, I just want to be able to make sure people know they don't have to throat clear their way, for example, through a talk. The same event I went to in the fall, the keynote speaker, great, amazing talk, great guy. He was on a roll. Audience was loving him. So he's an hour and a half into an hour talk and continues going. He is throat clearing more and more and more. And that tells me his throat is irritated. He's struggling. It's disrupting the message at that point because it's starting to get like distracting. And we've all had that, whether it's a cubicle mate all the way to like a speaker. It could be just ask your spouse. They'll probably tell you if you throat clear too much. And then at the same time, he had his water there. He wasn't drinking it, but the quality of his voice, Layna, just faded and faded and faded. So you could hear more of the pushing. You could hear the pitch breaks. Now, would the general audience notice that? I mean, they'd be like, "Oh, cool. He's really doing it. He's going for it." This is like the same people who say that raspy singing is sexy. We have to look at, is it rasp that they are doing and putting on safely, or is it rasp because they actually have a polyp or disorder or voice issue and they just have to talk through it? But we've deemed these things as okay for now, but to the speaker, to the user, that's a signal that things are going off course. But to having a team, I would love, where let's say it's a screening call 2 weeks with someone like me before that event. How's your voice feeling? Everything okay? Okay, cool. Okay, a week before the event, how's everything feeling? And then the team boots on the ground there, if someone like me can't be there, is able to put those environmental things in place and be that little person like, hey, it's been 30 minutes in the happy hour and you are shouting, and so let's pull it back because it's hard. We get in those fun conversations, or we're rocking that networking event and like to cut our own selves off. But I promise you that physical reduction in load and to have an accountability like team member, oh, would make such a difference for folks. They would know, what it felt like to actually honor and pull back for the sake of longevity.
Oh, that's so good. And it's so confirming because teams, everyone, you're listening, teams are really, really critical.
Yes,
You
they
know,
see things and they help.
for those who are able to grab the 30 minutes, with you for that voice
Yeah.
alignment call, walk us through that. Like
Yes.
who's the right person to be booking this call? What can they
Yes.
expect on this call with you?
This is for that person who is listening right now going, oh, I've been told that I speak too low. I've been told that my voice is kind of in fry, that glottal fry Kardashian feel. My voice has been scratchy for a few weeks now. These are the kind of things that you might be noticing. The other person who's ideal is one who is feeling like they want to sound stronger. They know they can sound stronger. They know that they can feel better in how they show up. And so that could be whether you're a nurse, a CEO, an educator, a public speaker. The profession is wide ranging, but what we do is I listen to how your voice is sounding. If
Yeah.
there's any quality issues, are you using your dynamics? Are you speaking like a robot and very monotone and kind of dull here? And everybody knows that gets really hard to listen to after a while, and then we turn them off. So what's going on with just how you're naturally speaking? What are you noticing? If the physicality of it, does it feel good? Does it feel like it takes work or strains? And then we'll go over your goals. And like you were saying, Layna, there might be different time frames where you're like, I need to get this done because I have X, Y, or Z coming up, versus I want to look at this as a longer term, health and wellness investment. So it's a great opportunity just to hear. I'll put it this way: people are always delighted by hearing something in their voice that they didn't hear before.
And you know what? And it goes back to what you originally stated about your own voice and hearing your voice. And I think it boils down to that. And some people, and you and I talked about this last time. People may not know what their authentic voice may even sound like.
Absolutely might not. You're exactly right. And it's okay if you don't, because why? We are human mimicry. We like to mimic and how other people do things. There are vocal trends, there are speech trends, there are lots of things that can take us into this conditioned sound. We think as women, for example, we need to lower our voices to sound authoritative. No, we are not doing that here, because that is not your natural way of being. So yes, it gives me chills. Like right now, when I hear someone's voice come through, flow through, and they go, oh, that sounds like me.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, it's just so beautiful. So yes, even if you're like, I don't know what I would say, what would I sound like? Give yourself grace, be open-minded to the potential, and know that resonance lives within you, and we just are going to like draw it out.
Oh, Brienne, I wish I could stay longer. You and I can go probably for hours.
I know. I had to. I was like, oh.
But your approach, it's such a powerful reminder that voice isn't just performance, it's presence.
Yes.
So just really, really thank you for being here. And if you guys haven't got excited about this, you're crazy. But make sure to book a call so that you can understand your personal voice, how you can use that either on stage. And then also, Brienne, I know that you're really looking to connect with leaders and teams in the healthcare space. Can you talk a little bit about that? Why them specifically?
Absolutely. This comes not only from my time in healthcare, but really even some clients that I've worked with since. They are former either healthcare executives or even nurses who are using their voices extensively. And I find that because our healthcare system is rife with burnout at this point, there are ways like through voice care and this deeper voice work to not only replenish and reduce that sense of burnout and that feeling of burnout, but make sure that whether you decide to stay in healthcare or some of the clients I've worked with who have made their leap and transitioned out into speaking and entrepreneurship, you are going to have that, I think, wake up call to speaking and presenting yourself in a way that fit that model, fit healthcare, but doesn't necessarily fit who you are here to be. Because there's a lot of rubrics and boundaries that healthcare wants to put on folks. So I feel like whether you're staying in it in a leadership position or you are transitioning out, your presence, your voice, and speaking up so that you are heard, especially as a woman, is going to be crucial.
I know that we're going to have to do this again and drink our water, but make sure to connect with Brienne. You can go to yourvocalvitality.com and grab that complimentary voice alignment call. It's definitely super important for our voices. We use it every single day, and don't wait until there's a strain. But again, I love the inner voice because I think that all of us deserve to at least know what that means. So thank you so much for jumping on here and connecting with us and teaching us more about how our voices can help us to be more powerful and present, either on stage or at home or at work or as a leader. So really appreciate you, Brienne. Thank you so much for showing up with us. We really appreciate it. And you guys got to catch us later with Speakers and Stages. This is where we go beyond the mic and going deeper. And this, I think, is one of the deepest conversations that one can have in this particular space, because it's not something that we're thinking about. So
thank you, Layna.
So much.
I appreciate you. Appreciate y'all listening. Have a beautiful day.
Thanks, everyone.